Today we're making Kool-Aid Kombucha, and we're doing it for 3 reasons. The first reason is flavor. There's no ingredient on earth that is going to match some of these flavors. There is no grape that tastes like grape Kool-Aid. There is no cherry that tastes like cherry Kool-Aid. If you're looking for that hit of nostalgia, if you're looking for that specific flavor, you got to go to the real thing. The real thing, in this case, being the fake thing of Kool-Aid. The second part is just ease. When we made our Thanksgiving meal kombucha, I spent the better part of a day making that. But for Kool-Aid Kombucha, all of our flavors already in the pack, dehydrated, ready to go and be poured in. I could probably have knocked out the entire batch while describing all of this. And the third reason is just price. For 39 cents, I can get 4 servings, or about 2 liters worth of Kool-Aid made. That comes down to about 10 cents per bottle for me, which is drastically lower than almost any other thing I would make. Some of the downsides, though, is that if you did want a grape flavor, that would be inaccessible to you. Fake grape flavor is just a chemical that a scientist 150 years ago thought smelled similar to a grape. Of all the hundreds of flavor compounds that would make up an actual piece of fruit, an artificial flavor usually takes a single compound that smells similar to that fruit. You're losing a lot of the nuance, you're losing a lot of the balance. It's also usually just the very cheapest possible compound that they could put into this, which is why it was 10 cents a serving. And then the last reason is twofold, because there are preservatives, and then those preservatives will probably give you cancer, and in fact are illegal in a lot of countries outside of the United States. And so while that might be harmful to us as human beings, I don't think it's going to be harmful to our kombucha. These preservatives are meant to keep the package safe and clean on its way to you. They're not necessarily meant to sterilize an entire bottle full of organisms. So I think we are going to plow through them like a freight train. Also, all of the colors in here are also cancer. I'm not sure why we give this to children. But for the flavors today, I'm going with grape, cherry, orange, tropical punch, and pink lemonade. At the end, I'm going to compare a kombucha made of actual orange juice versus our orange flavoring, just to see how different they can be. One final note is that these packets are 0 calories by themselves. The suggested amount of sugar would be about 50 grams per bottle, which is almost a fifth of the beverage's weight. So I do want to dial that down, but I'm a little worried about doing that. These packets are mostly citric acid, and then the kombucha itself is very acidic. It could be that if we don't add enough sugar, this is going to be too sour to be palatable. So we're going to try it 2 ways. For one, I'm going to do double the amount of sugar I use for a normal plain kombucha, and then for one, I'm going to do the full volume of 50 grams of sugar. And we're just going to hope that it doesn't explode. Let's get started. Before we go too far, though, I want to confirm the bricks of my simple syrup, which is 1 part sugar to 1 part water. So I had always just, as a rough estimate, considered the sugar content to be 50%. But I don't think that's actually true, because even though I make the syrup very quickly, I think there is some evaporation, so I think we're probably actually closer to something like 60%. For the sake of being exact, let's take a look. 72.8 is what we actually came out to, so I need to redo some math. For our kombucha today, I went with a half green tea, half black tea. That should allow the Kool-Aid flavor to shine through a little bit clearer. And this we'll save for next time. So for each of these, I am adding 1 gram of the Kool-Aid powder. Woo! And then 36 grams of simple syrup, which should give us 26 grams of sucrose. And to help flush some of this Kool-Aid powder down, I'm going to go ahead and add the kombucha right away. I grabbed Tropical Punch because it was blue, and I hoped it would be... That smells all right. And I wanted that blue flavor. This is red. It feels incredibly misleading. It always got me as a child, too. Incredibly deceptive marketing there. I will say they already smell very strongly like their flavors. None of my natural flavors ever come through this cleanly. I don't think I've ever actually bought orange Kool-Aid. I'm not sure why someone would want that. I don't think I actually bought any of my favorite Kool-Aid flavors. I think I only really liked blue raspberry, maybe Sharkleberry Fin, since it had the shark on it. I just thought it was important to go with the classic flavors here. I think at this point, the only time I have artificial orange flavor is through like the occasional medicine. I think cherry I'm most concerned about. I was going to say because I feel like that's most likely to taste like cough syrup. Oh, okay, now it does. I was going to say, it was pretty pleasant when I first opened it. I think what I wanted was black cherry. I do remember getting black cherry growing up. I can't imagine what the difference is, though. So for all of these so far, I've used the 36 grams of simple syrup. For this final one, though, I'm going to go with the actual recommended sugar content of Kool-Aid, which was going to be 50 grams of sugar, 69 grams of simple syrup. Just because I think this is likely to be our most sour of the Kool-Aid flavors. I think if anything's going to benefit from the full amount of sweetness, it's going to be this. For our final bottle, we are just going with some store-bought orange juice. And I'm going with 122 grams, which should be only about 11 grams of sugar, which is going to be drastically lower than any of our other bottles. It is about 27% of our bottle's volume, which I find is usually the point where the flavor of the fruit juice clearly stands through the kombucha. And that's precisely what we're looking for here. All right, with our last bottle filled, these are ready to bottle condition, our carbonate. Now, normally for a plain kombucha, I would let it sit for 5 days. With no fruit pulp or fruit juices, it usually takes about that long to get properly carbonated. With these, though, they've got at least double the amount of sugar I would normally add, so I think 3 days is going to be sufficient. And that should be just enough time for our orange juice as well. Just going to make sure these get properly mixed. And then I'm going to hold these at 78 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit for the entire time. Hopes are high, though. These are smelling good. After 3 days of carbonation and 1 day in the fridge, we're ready to try this. Ooh, no pop. I'm starting with the tropical punch. Ooh, it smells exactly like tropical punch. It tastes exactly like Kool-Aid. There is like a lingering sour finish. Not so much a flavor of sourness, but like it tingles the tongue a bit. It tastes very much like a full sugar, almost over-sugared Kool-Aid. It is delicious, though. Kind of taste the pineapple and the other fruits. But yeah, there's just something tingling on the sides of my tongue every time I take a drink. Like a subtle hint of carbonation almost. I think this would be good. I think it's too sweet, though. I think this would be better if I treated it like my usual plain kombucha. 9 grams of added sugar, 5 days of carbonation. I think this would be better. And I think I'm going to try it again next week. Ooh. Ooh, it's like a little glass of summer. I feel better about where we're going. Let's try another one. Next up is Grape. One of my least favorite, I didn't bring a glass. One of my least favorite artificial flavors. So it's going to have the smallest glass. That is quite purple, though. And there is better carbonation. Ooh, it's good. I think it almost holds up better than the tropical punch. There is some acidity, which I feel like balances out that usual cough syrupy grape flavor. It almost reminds me of a grape Tootsie Pop. I don't know why I would say that. That's very pleasant. I don't think I would want less sugar on this one. This is going to be a lot to think about. Because I would consider the tropical punch to be more acidic. As someone who hates grape flavoring, this is really good. I feel like my wife's going to love this. These are all so far more successful than I think any of my other trials. I did think of the one I wanted, though. My favorite flavor was the Grape Bludini, which is apparently blue raspberry with like better marketing. That and I wanted the lemon lime, not for the flavor, but for how green it is. I was just like in the moment at the store. It's just unsettling to have that shade of green with that flavor. I couldn't pull the trigger. Let's try another one. Next up is cherry. It is redder. It smells exactly like cough syrup. I also hate this flavor. I feel like the effervescence, though, changes the profile somewhat. It's not that strong artificial cherry flavor that comes to the front. It's more of the acid, the well-rounded sweetness, the hint of fruit, I would say, somewhere in there, but not that single artificial note that really displeases me. It is strong if you breathe it in, though. The actual taste is pretty good, though. I wouldn't make this one again, just because I'm breathing in that disgusting cough syrup smell, but the flavor is very refreshing. There's definitely not one of these so far that I would struggle to drink. Next up is pink lemonade, which has our full amount of Kool-Aid sugar, which was something like 50 grams. Ugh. No carbonation, but it did spit on me. Not the prettiest color. But it does smell like a glass of Minute Maid lemonade. And it kind of tastes like it, too. That kind of overpowering sweetness. Like there's acidity, but it's buried so far below the sugar that it's hard to really pick out unless you're looking for it. I do wish it was pink, but it does smell strongly like lemonade. This is just so overwhelmed by the sugar. That's hard to drink. Oh, it's like drinking candy. Full sugar's too far. Don't go full sugar. For this last one, we're going to do a head-to-head. Our Kool-Aid orange versus our real orange juice. Almost no carbonation on this one either. Real, fake. It smells like fake orange juice. It smells like a glass of orange juice. Everything's making sense so far. This is too sweet. Kind of like with the lemonade, all of the acidity that I would want in a fake orange juice is kind of missing. It's just kind of overwhelmed by the sugar. It does smell like fake orange. It's just generic sweetness. I think if we dialed this one down too to 9 grams instead of 30 or whatever we added, I think this would shine through a lot clearer. I think this would be at least more interesting than it is currently. I think if you wanted a fake orange, that's the way to go. Let's try the real thing, though. With the real orange juice, it kind of just rises and then peters out. There's not much to it. It smells mildly orangey, and then it kind of just tastes like nothing. It's not that sweet. It's not that acidic. This one, even though it's too sweet, it's got this huge spike of flavor. It starts one place, spikes up into this giant sour sugar bomb, and then it ends on a completely different note. It's got a whole complex, I mean, I don't know why, but it's got a whole complex profile. And then this, it's just very one note. It's almost like a watered down orange juice. Starts mildly interesting and then goes nowhere. There's not much to it. This is the clear winner. That's worse than this, better than this. So where does that leave us? This is absolutely worth making. These are delicious. If there's any single Kool-Aid flavor that you enjoyed as a child, or not to judge today, I think this is worth making. It's 39 cents for a packet. You can make 4. You don't need much sugar to get this going. I think if you treat it like a normal plain kombucha, you add a little bit of your powder mix, I think you're in for a treat. Of all my experiments so far, I think this is by far the best. Everything was delicious, except for the real orange juice. That's depressing. And there's so many pre-made powder drinks that are out there now. There was a whole entire shelf dedicated to them. So I would say it's worth it to go there and poke around a little bit, because if anything, it's a one-off good way to play around. And it's a good way to get you through these winter months when there's no real fresh food available. Now I've got to go track down some Grape Bludini off eBay. So thank you for watching. Until next time, this is Reckless Pooch.